Now, from what you've been hearing this morning, any idea which hypothesis is the most likely? We've got Egyptian officials now saying it's more likely to have been a terrorist attack.
It's really, I realise this is a very unhelpful thing to say at one level, but it is too early to tell. We haven't got any information at all yet. So currently we're speculating about the speculation, but there are a number of things which are interesting and relevant. The first is that the aircraft was at 37,000 feet, well established, stable on a clear day or clear early in the morning, and there'd been no reports of any issues prior to this. And secondly, there was no mayday calls, there were no emergency messages, anything like that, which indicates that whatever happened to the aeroplane, it was absolutely spontaneous. That doesn't rule out a really catastrophic mechanical failure. It doesn't rule out that it was hit by something, heaven forfend, as horrible as a missile or something like that. But of course, it also doesn't rule out the fact that it might have been a bomb.
Now, why do you think there's been so much confusion over whether or not a distress signal was sent?
Aircraft send a lot of signals. A lot of them are simply mechanical updates and those sorts of things. And in the post-MH370 environment, there's a lot more work going on about how frequently aeroplanes communicate with the ground. Early this morning, there were unconfirmed reports that there had been a distress signal. In the context of this really horrible event, that's positive news in that it indicates that perhaps it was a mechanical fault. Since then, it seems that whether or not that signal was actually sent has become much less clear. I hope at all sorts of levels, I hope that perhaps a distress signal was sent because, as I say, it indicates the pilot had a chance to do something.
Now, when a plane touches down in different countries, several different countries in one day, how many searches would there have been? I understand that the plane was only in Paris for about an hour and there wouldn't have been time for a thorough search of the aircraft.
Well, there isn't a thorough search of the aircraft, but it's a fairly curious point, isn't it? I realise this was this aircraft's sixth sector in a day, but to claim that the device was put on prior to the aircraft getting to Paris and only detonated at this point in this flight indicates that it had been flying around for at least one, if not more than one sector, and had been undetonated. And it strikes me as an odd. If you're going to go to the effort of putting the device on the aeroplane, and surely you would detonate it as rapidly as possible thereafter, so as to avoid the fact that a search picks it up. It seems like a curious theory to me. I'm not ruling it out, but then I'm not ruling anything out at the moment.
And what can you tell us about this plane? It's an Airbus A320, and I understand that anyone who's travelled in Europe might have been on one before. They're very commonly used and have a good safety record.
It's almost impossible not to have travelled on an A320 if you live in Europe. It's an excellent aeroplane. This particular aeroplane was 15 years old, which is by no means old for an Airbus A320. As you say, they are a complete workhorse around Europe, and they are very safe, very stable and very reliable aeroplanes.